Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program module BSCM 2206, which is Health and Safety in Supply Chain. I am Dr. Rohita Ratnavira, and I am the one who's going to take you through this entire health and safety in supply chain modules. Today, we are going to start with the session 1, Introduction to Occupational Health and Safety. Program agenda. First, individual introductions. We can't see each other, so therefore it is important that we all, myself as well as you all, know each other. Then subject introduction, we will give a little bit of an introduction about the subject. Then discussions and exercises. We are going to take this as much as possible in a practical manner, although it is more or less looks like a one-way one. Why I say that is, if we are in a classroom, we can interact with each other without any difficulty. How we are going to manage that is yet to be seen. We will have a lot of discussions and exercises in this training program. And also remember, the whole idea of this training program is not just to pass the exam, but to share knowledge and gain competency. Remember, there is a very big difference between the knowledge and the competency. Knowledge is what you learn. Competency is your ability to put knowledge into practice. So unless we do discussions and exercises, you will never gain the competency, but only the knowledge. Knowledge without having the ability to put into practice is of no use. Then of course, yes, when we are doing this training program, remember, I am not a very rigid person, but of course strict discipline will be maintained. But we have to have some lighter moments, have some fun, but respect the diversity. Maybe there are people coming from various backgrounds, various ethnic groups, various religions. Everyone has the same right. Everyone shares the same life. So please let's learn and let's practice respecting each other during this training program. House rules. When we are conducting this training program, as I told you earlier, we have to maintain some discipline. Before starting everything, we should know the attendance. As I told you earlier, I can't see you and you can't see me. But there's a virtual way of knowing whether how many of you all are participating is active. So I hope the people who are participating virtually should be physically available with their device also. Mobile phones on silent mode. When I say silent, not that you're going to cut the audio off and the video off. It should be dedicated to this training program only. Don't minimize the screen and go to Facebook or WhatsApp chatting with others until and unless I ask you to do so. Convenience. If you want to go and have a glass of water, cup of tea, whatever, as long as you can do it while with maintaining the attention to this training program, it is not my problem. Your attention is required for you because you all are the one who's going to sit for the exams and pass. Questions. Yes, though we can't see each other, there is a way of asking the questions. Whenever you have an issue, you can either note it down and ask the questions later, or still, if you think that I require to answer the question right now, please prompt me. These instructions has been already delivered. Right. Let's come to introduction. Now, first introduction is about myself. As I told you earlier, I am Dr. Rohita Ratnavira. This is me. You can't see me now, but now you have seen. I am having a doctorate in strategic planning, and I'm coming from a very indifferent background. I'm a battle tank and armament engineer of the Sri Lankan Army long time back. I was trained in so many countries, and also I have served in many armies, in the privilege of serving in some of the elite armies, including the Russian Army. Then I am the head of HSC and productivity of Shell Africa and Shell Middle East. I left the Sri Lankan Army in 1998. Then in year 2000, I joined Shell Group. And till 2016, I have been serving in many countries, and my final appointment was the head of health, safety, environment, and productivity of entire Shell Africa and entire Shell Middle East. I was privileged to be with the Shell where the HSC is being born. Then in 2016, I came back to Sri Lanka and started my own business, GIST Private Limited. If you want to get any information about myself, you can go to www.gistservices.com. You can get enough information about that. And I'm very much keen and concerned about developing grassroots level skills right up to the management, because that is one of the military strategies. You can't become a manager without becoming a worker. You can't become a commander without becoming a soldier. So therefore, the concept what I believe is everyone who's going to command and control and pass instructions to lower level, they should know their job better than those who are performing the job. So in general, in my all training programs, I am very much practically oriented. Why? As I told you earlier, knowledge without having the ability to put them into practice is of no use. Then let's come to the subject introduction. I gave this introduction at the beginning of the training program. This is program module BSCM 2206, Health and Safety in Supply Chain. Now, the health and safety in supply chain has so many other sub-modules. We are going to go through these modules in our future training programs. First one is effective HSE management. Remember, HSE stands for Health, Safety and Environment. Here in module 1, we will try to understand why effective HSE management is required. Then 1.1, also part of that one, leadership and commitment. Now this is the management of health, safety and environment is leadership related business. It is not for the workers but to the leaders to set the guidelines and the direction. Then comes to policy and the strategic objectives. Every business must have a policy in achieving their strategic objective. Now when I say strategic objectives, I'm very sure you are going to learn these things in the future, or maybe you have already learned about this one. The strategic objective is what the company is going to achieve and how we are going to do it. That is the strategic objective. Then the policy is while you are achieving or trying to achieve your strategic objectives, how we are going to behave, how the company is going to behave, where's your left and right, what are your limitations, all those things comes in the policy. So the third one is the organization, responsibilities and resources. So now we talk about the strategic objectives, we talk about the policy, and to achieve that strategic objectives while staying within the policy, you have to have an organization to support that, and the responsibilities should be given to the key stakeholders, and you have to have the resources. That is module 3 of this program. Then the module 4 is the core of health and safety management in any place. Module 4 starts with the risk management framework. Now I am tying all these things over and over again for you to understand what the flow is going to look like. You have a policy, you have objectives to achieve, you have an organization to do that, the responsibilities are given, resources are there, but how you are going to manage the risk? There is a risk of everything. Even while you are sitting in front of your laptop, computer, or maybe your mobile phone, sitting on a chair, still there's a risk. There's no place in this world the risk is zero. Every place there is some risk. If you are attending to this session while sitting in front of a computer, maybe there's a risk of your chair collapsing. If you are sitting underneath the fan, there is a risk of your fan is going to crash onto your head. You are sitting inside a room, there is a risk of walls collapsing. So like that, the risk is everywhere. So now even when you are doing a business, while you are doing your business activities, there is a risk. If you start a distribution operation, there's a risk of the person driving from A to B meeting with an accident. Some incident is happening, spill is happening, a fire is breaking off. So like that, the risk is everywhere, right? So when you're starting your business, you should know how to identify your risk and manage that one. Then comes number 2, HEMP. HEMP stands for Hazard Effect Management Process. Now here, though it is not the right time for me to explain without letting you confuse over the risk and the hazard, let me explain on that one. As I told you earlier, while you are sitting on your chair, there is a risk of your chair breaking and you are suffering some injuries. Risk is always a probability and an impact, or probability with a result, probability with an injury or something, or probability with an outcome. Now, as I told you, the risk is always a probability with an outcome or the severity. Hazard. Hazard is the one which can create the problem. Hazard is the danger. Say as an example, if you talk about a swimming pool has water, say 2 meters. 2 meters of depth is dangerous. Why? If someone falls in, the person can die. Okay, so remember then, hazard is the water. Then the risk is someone falling into that one and dying. Now, if you think of any of the swimming pools anywhere, maybe 101 people have fallen into the swimming pool, maybe only one died. About 5 or 6 suffered injuries. The rest 98 came out unharmed but just got wet. So if you're going to consider the hazard and the risk related to the swimming pool, hazard is the water, or deep water rather, then the risk can come with the severity. Say the risk of getting wet is 99.99. Then falling into the water and suffering an injury may be 10%. Then falling into the water and dying may be 0.1%. That is how risk is been explained. So here remember in your business, risk management framework, how much of things are occurring over and over again and what is the severity, how we are going to manage that. To manage that, the best thing is to eliminate the hazard. Now even in a swimming pool, if you fill the swimming pool with sand and remove all the water, nobody is going to die. Nobody is going to fall into that one. Right? So remember, there are ways of managing the risk as well as managing the hazard. Then comes emergency response planning. In any business, you have to have this. You may do a proper risk assessment and the risk management. You may identify and try to remove all the hazards, but still there is a possibility of something going wrong. When that happens, you have to have your emergency response plan ready. So that is our module 4.3. Now, if you know your hazard, if you have managed your risk, you have emergency response planning. Now, the way you are going to work without having any serious injury is the safe system of work. Say, as an example, if you got the opportunity to go and do a painting on the Bandaranaike bridge, right? That bridge is spanning over the Kalaniganga. So when you are doing the painting work on top of the bridge, there is a possibility for you to fall into the water. Now here, can you remove the hazard? Yes and no, right? The risk is if you fall, definitely you are going to die because the depth is so much and the fall of height is so much. But what is the hazard? Falling into the water. So the water is down there. So if you can eliminate the people falling into the water by erecting a proper platform, we can say 90% of the hazard has been eliminated. Unless you want to jump out purposefully, you are not going to die. Now say by any chance you fall into the water, do you have an emergency response plan? So remember, when you are planning your work, you have to have the safe system of work, all the required instructions and directions to perform your work safely, as well as you have to have the emergency response planning before you start your work. Why emergency response planning is before safe system of work? This is very key. This is where in Sri Lanka many a times we go wrong. We do the instructions, we give the instructions to do some work, then something goes wrong, there's nothing to save the person. Actually, it should be other way around. When you are giving some instructions and doing a work, first think what can go wrong. What will happen if it goes wrong? Am I ready? Where is the ambulance? Where is the medical kit? Who's going to help? How we are going to take the person out? All these things should be planned before you start working. Right. Then comes to module 5, that is business plan and procedures. So once you complete the module 4, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 and 4.4, then only you can develop your business plans and procedures. Why? You know how to work safely. You have a system to attend to any emergencies if something goes wrong. Then while you are doing your business plans and procedures while you are putting your business plans and procedures into practice, you have to do the performance monitoring. What is performance monitoring? Check randomly whether you all are doing the right thing in the right way. Were there any still incidents happening? Why those things are happening? And how you are going to monitor in that. That is coming under performance monitoring. Say while you are monitoring your performance, you find something going wrong. Then you have to conduct the incident investigation to correct either the safe system of work or business plans or maybe even the risk management. That is the whole idea of doing the incident investigation. In Sri Lanka, the incident investigation is always to find who is at fault. But actually the incident investigation, the proper reason is to identify whether the problem is with item number 3, organization responsibilities and resources, or 4.1, whether the risk is being managed properly, 4.2, whether you have eliminated your hazards properly, or your emergency response plan is in place, or whether safe system of work is being implemented, or whether your business plans and procedures are proper. That is the whole idea of the incident investigation, not to blame a person, but to understand where the system failed. Right. Then comes to 7, that is audits. Why you are auditing? To know whether the system is still intact and whether it is performing well. Then at number 8, we do the HSC review. HSC stands for, I remind again, Health, Safety and Environment. Why you are reviewing it? You should know whether you can improve your performance, and maybe a couple of incidents has happened within the last 1 year. Maybe the audits was not good. There were some findings. You can do a review and fix all those issues. So this is how you are going to manage health and safety in your supply chain. So that is why all these modules are included into this program. And also remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions while I am conducting this session, please note the area what is not clear and please prompt me. Right. Now here I have highlighted 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 and 4.4 in red. The reason, as I told you very much earlier, this is the key and the most important component of health and safety management in any component, any business, any activity, not only in supply chain, wherever it is. Okay, right. Now we are going to talk about the supply chain, why we have to think of the risk of supply chain before developing everything. Now, when it comes to the supply chain, there are two types of supply chains. Maybe you have already studied the key elements of the supply chain. Supply chain could be a flat one, flat chart, flat flow, where it starts from the raw material, then the process, you produce something, you put it into the warehouse, distribute, warehouse or the retailer again, and then to the consumer, and your supply chain ends. This is where we are going wrong actually. Why I said like that is, now here we are talking about not just a supply chain. When it comes to HSE, we are talking about the ethical supply chain. Remember, ethical supply chain has one additional segment or component. What is it? Raw material production, intermediate production and manufacturers, end product manufacturer, distributor, warehouse and retailer, wholesale and retailer, then comes to consumer. And what is the last element? Recycling and disposing. Remember, there is a component called product stewardship. The product stewardship is when you introduce a product, either you manufacture or import and distribute in a community or in a country, importer, distributor or the producer is responsible for cradle to grave of the product. When I say cradle to grave, cradle is තොටිල්ල, grave is the මිනිවල. ඒ කියන්නේ කොම්පොනන්ට් එක ලංකාවට ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරලා හෝ සමාජයට ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරලා පටන් ගත්ත පළවෙනි මොහොතේ සිට ඒක සමාජයට හා පරිසරයට හානියක් නොවන පරිදි ඩිස්පෝස් කරනකම් ඒක ඒ නිෂ්පාදනය කරපු කෙනාගේ අතේ ඒ වගකීම තියෙනවා. Which means you can't just import or distribute or manufacture things and let it go into the society without having an idea how the hell this is going to be recycled, how the hell this is going to be disposed. That is a responsibility of a producer. Right, now let's see a small chart. Now here you can see raw material supplier. That is the starting point. This is of a automotive manufacturing plant, right? Raw material supplier, then he develops parts. Parts were brought to the manufacturer and he's assembling the car. Car is going to the retailer. From the retailer, the consumer buys the car. He uses it about couple of times, a couple of years, and after that it will go back to the recycler. This is happening in developed countries. Here we are in Sri Lanka. We are not into that stage yet, but in generally Europe, USA, then Australia, Japan, nearly 95% of the components of the car is been recycled. All the metal particles taken away, plastics taken away, rubber taken away. Then after that they take them back into the manufacturing facility and they reproduce some other component or something similar to that using the same material. So by doing that, what is happening is actually it's preserving the nature. How it preserves the nature? Number one, the use of raw material. You need not to keep on digging earth to find metals and other things. Then the energy consumption. When you are getting raw material from earth, you have to purify them. But when you are recycling, you have already got the material in your hands. So the amount of energy that you require to consume to produce something out of that is much, much cheaper rather than getting the raw material and doing it. Then also when you know very well, when you are consuming energy, we damage the environment by emitting so much of pollutants into that one. So because of that, ethical supply chain means you are taking care of the entire planet actually. So remember, there's a very big difference. When it is the normal supply chain, it is linear, just one single line starting from raw material supplier to the consumer. But when it is an ethical supply chain, it's a circle. Don't forget these two. Right. Now let's have a little bit of a look at the risk in the supply chain. As I told you earlier, supply chain starts from the raw material and it goes to the end user and then goes back to the recycler, and it's a never ending process. It can keep on rotating any amount of times. But while we are doing this, as I told you, when you are having a risk while sitting in your chair, when the entire process of the supply chain starts getting activated, there are a lot of risky elements here and there. Let's see what they are. Right. Some examples. Deepwater Horizon oil spill in April 2010. This is a raw material related incident. Raw material is actually they were excavating the platform was owned by British Petroleum, but it was operated by some other company behalf of British Petroleum during the drilling process. I'm going to show you only one photograph, but during the break and until we meet next time, I want you all to do a little bit of search and find out what happened in Deepwater Horizon. I will be giving the opportunity to any of you all in random basis to explain to me and everyone what happened in Deepwater Horizon and why it happened like that. We have to learn a lot through incidents. That is the best way to enhance our knowledge. This is one of the biggest oil related disasters which has happened in the history of the mankind. Then comes the DuPont fire. Again, I want you to do a little bit of searching and study on this one. It's an intermediate product process, which means they have the raw material, they were producing something in the DuPont chemical manufacturing facility in Arizona, and then something went wrong there. Again, I am asking you, requesting you all to study this and find out what went wrong there. This is the end result. This is one of the biggest disasters in the chemical industry in USA. Then tanker fires. Now tanker fires is when you are transporting crude oil and oil related products, chemicals from one place to another. Now remember, I am also going according to a sequence. First I talk about the raw material, then I am talking about the processing, now I am talking about the distribution. This is also a very common thing which has happened many a times in many countries, very little in Sri Lanka because we are not an oil producing country. Had we been born in any of the countries where I was, in the African continent or Middle East or even in Europe or USA, you will see so much of similar things happening in the environment. Right. Then comes storage fires, warehousing. Now the transporting is done. Now we are talking about warehousing. So many incidents are happening related to warehouses also. Even in Sri Lanka, very recently, I could remember about 2 months ago, there was a chemical warehouses were under fire. So warehouse fires also something very common. This is also one of the very key points, pivoting points in the supply chain. Then consumer related incidents. This is something very critical. As I told you earlier, when it comes to the supply chain, when you are introducing a product, you are going to be responsible for the cradle to grave. From the time you introduce the product into the market and right up to the disposal of that one, the person is responsible. Now here I am highlighting an incident called Sakata recall. Again, all these incidents, you will have to do a little bit of search and find out what went wrong and how it went wrong. Definitely there will be a question for in your final module paper from this particular section. So here what happened was the Sakata is I could say was the largest airbag manufacturer in the world. What is the airbag? That is the piece, balloon kind of a thing, which has been deflated and folded and put into the middle of the steering wheel and the front dashboard of the car. Minimum requirement now is 2 airbags. This airbag get deployed either by using carbon dioxide or a chemical reaction. It get deployed at a very, very fast rate. Generally, it's in some microseconds. The speed of the deployment of the airbag is nearly 300 kilometers per hour. The airbag has to be deployed before your head comes and bang onto your dashboard or to the steering wheel. It will take your head into the airbag and cushion in the impact. Thereby, it is going to reduce the damages to the head. But unfortunately, what happened with Sakata was there was a problem in the manufacturing process, and this airbag started to blast and explode unintentionally, killing the driver and the passenger. This happened many a times in USA. Please do a little bit of a search, because these things are very important for you all to know, because your base of your future is depending on these kind of things. I'm sorry for my apologies for showing this graphic picture, but of course you have to understand the reality. So Sakata recall is from the consumer. Then I'm going to the last stage of recycling and disposing. Recycling and disposing, when it comes to this level, it is always an unusable component. Sometimes it is hazardous, sometimes it's a menace. So you should know how to manage it very well. There have been many instances or incidents with related to recycling and disposing. Even in Sri Lanka, you all could remember very well, Mitotamullo Kunukanda issue. That was a part of recycling and disposing. Had a country had a system of collecting all these things in a systematic manner and sorting them properly and recycling, this Meetotamallo Kunukanda wouldn't have been there in first place. Kunugoda issue is a real reflection of how poor are we in our cradle to grave care. Right? Okay. Now you can see here in this image, plastic containers or plastic cans recycling facility. Here these people, they bought the cans assuming that it was empty and put into the crusher so many containers without realizing that actually they were filled with expired chemicals inside. They started to spill out, and it ruined this beautiful land. And there was actually, this particular photograph was taken very next day after the incident. But with my experience, I know what happened after this. This land was not usable for so many years after this, because it polluted the land. And also I want to show you a small clue of something which I'm going to discuss. Maybe you all can see the sand towards the left corner has turned red. That is because of the acidity, right? And I will link this to something else in a little while. This is just for your knowledge. Acidity creates the redness of soil, because the iron, these are the iron particles which has got activated with the reacted with the chemical and has produced metal oxide or metal hydroxide here. That's why it is in red color. Okay, right. Now here, you just to summarize, now I have given you some examples first from the raw material, then from the processing, then from the transportation, then warehousing, and then with the consumer, and now with the recycling. So here I have given examples for the entire cycle of a ethical supply chain. Now you should know what kind of a risk is there. Right. Now let's see, if we know that there is a risk in every component of the supply chain system, how we are going to manage it. We know that there is a risk of something going wrong, how we are going to manage it. First one is known and unknown risk. Now this known and unknown risk means when a person is starting a business, he may have some inherent knowledge either through education or through his family background or previous experience to identify the risk of the business. If the person is very much aware, then the risk is known, he can control. If he has not done any studies on that one, he doesn't have any knowledge, previous knowledge, experience, then the unknown risk of the business is very high. I will quote an example of again one of the incidents which I am going to talk in a little while. This is about Horana ammonia gas leak of a latex rubber factory. I know the owner personally. He's not into rubber industry, but he started this business without realizing the danger of it. So when it comes to the Horana gas leak incident, from the point of view of the business owner, his known risk was very small. He only knew that it's very profitable, but unknown risk was huge. So this is one of the key things when you are starting a business. If you don't know what kind of risk you are going to deal with, it's always better to get some expert to give you the opinion on that one. Then the risk mitigation and appetite. Now the risk mitigation is, if there is a known risk, you can bring in some controls, some measures to reduce the impact of the risk. As I told you earlier, when you are sitting in the chair, If the chair is old, there is a possibility of the chair breaking. So if you know that the chair is old and it is going to break, you will not swing it. You might give a little bit of a support to that. You may sit very slowly. All those things are mitigation measures. Why? If the chair is going to break unintentionally without your knowledge, you are going to suffer a lot of injuries, a lot of damages, right? Then there is a thing called risk appetite. Now the risk appetite is how much risk are you willing to take? Now your chair is broken, you are having another chair 2 rooms away, knowing the chair is broken, it's not in good shape, knowing that it's going to collapse, you still opt, it's okay, no problem, I will still sit on this. That is your risk appetite. Another classic example is maybe you are riding motorcycles. Wearing the helmet, right? You know when you are riding a motorcycle, there is a possibility of crashing. What you're supposed to do to mitigate the risk? Get the proper license, keep the bike motorcycle in good shape, and get some training properly to how to handle the motorcycle, wear a good helmet, wear gloves, wear proper shoes, and control your speed while driving. Those are risk mitigation measures. Your risk appetite. He don't want to wear the helmet. Why? If he wear the helmet, his hairstyle is going to get destroyed. That is the risk appetite, right? You know that if something happens, he is going to lose his head, but still he prefers, no, I am not going to wear the helmet. That is the risk appetite. Okay, right. Tolerance and acceptance. The same motorcycle guy, he ride the motorcycle without the helmet, he crashes, and he got some scratches, punchitu alayak, on his head. So what will the guy says? If he's a wise guy, he will say, oh my God, I am not wearing the helmet, so I crashed. I am lucky that I didn't suffer so much of injuries, so I will start wearing my helmet from now. Now the risk tolerance is, kamak naha වැටුනේ පොඩ්ඩයි එච්චර ලොකු තුවාලයක් නැහැ. I am not going to wear the helmet. Still the helmet will be on the elbow or hanging on the handle while riding the bicycle. That is the risk tolerance, right? Risk appetite is to take the risk. Risk tolerance is while the bad things are happening, still continuing to do the same thing. That is the risk tolerance. In some businesses, this kind of things are happening. Then the acceptance. පොඩ්ඩක් තුවාල වුණාට කමක් නැහැ. බයිසිකල් එක පදිනකොට වැටෙනවා තමයි. That kind of attitude. So remember, these are very important even when you are doing a business. You should know how to mitigate your risk by identifying the risk. So that means your known risk should be bigger. If you have a known risk, bring in risk mitigation measures. Risk appetite. Why should you face the risk? Knowing that it's going to hurt you, unless you are a real professional on managing that risk. Then the risk tolerance. You suffer damages, still you tolerate it. තාම නෑ, තාම බෙල්ල කැඩුන්නේ නෑ. ඒ නිසා ඔළුව පොඩ්ඩක් පැලුනට කමක් නෑ. So the acceptance. Others also will accept. තාම එච්චර තුවාලයක් වෙලා නෑ. බයිසිකල් පදිනකොට වැටෙනවා තමයි. So remember, these are all behaviors. Then comes legal framework. Why the legal framework? As I told you all earlier, with related to this motorcycle example, when a person is not behaving properly, the legal framework is there to fix the person. At least the law will come into place and say, no, you better wear the helmet, if not we are going to fine you. So at least because of the legal framework, the person will start taking some risk mitigation measures, so the damage is been minimized. Then there is another thing called IPs. IPs are, remember, interested parties. Now these interested parties means when you introduce a product or when you introduce a service, there are so many people who are interacting with that. Sometimes when you introduce a product, a set of people can get benefited, some set of people can get affected by that one with negative results. So in a situation like that, these interested parties are also being considered as an important factor. Who are these interested parties are? First party are the ones who the ones who can get affected by your decision or the product. Now say as an example, couple of years ago we had only car taxis and three-wheelers. Then came Uber. The moment Uber came in, Three-wheeler drivers and the normal taxi drivers were affected very badly. Now today you can't find an ordinary taxi today here in Sri Lanka. Always either pick me, Uber or any other cab service which we can book through the online service. So at that time when the Uber was starting, so many other taxi drivers objected to that one. Why? They are going to get affected with the Uber decision or Uber coming into Sri Lanka. So those are the people who are going to get affected. So that is the first group. Then the second group of interested parties are the people who could get affected. The first one are the ones who are going to get affected or already affected. Then the second group is one who could get affected, right? Now, an example is we are starting a manufacturing facility. There's a residential neighborhood outside. There's a very long and tall parapet wall. So theoretically, there is a very good separation between the factory and the residences. We have not started the factory yet, but the residence people, they can say, oh my God, when these people started the factory, lot of soot, dust, smoke, and the other things are going to come and disturb them. So remember, they also become an interested party automatically. Then the third party is nothing has started, nothing is happening, but the idea or the initial stage of the product or service is being surfaced. So now there is a set of people who believes that they are going to get affected by the product or the service. This is the third type. All these three parties are legally valid. I am going to show you with examples how the IPs got affected and change certain decisions within the country here, because the local examples are much better than quoting outside examples. Right. Then the financial aspects. Remember, when you are running a business, you are running the business to make a profit. When you are running the business, from the other side, you will have some risk. How you are going to manage the risk? You are not going to manage the risk by spending every cent of your business into safety. Then there's no point of running the business. Then you are doing a charity, right? So remember, when you are running a business, you have to make a profit. And when you are reducing the risk or managing the risk, you only take care to do a proper justified risk assessment and reduce the risk to ALAP level. What is ALAP? As low as reasonably practicable. As I told you earlier, no risk can be eliminated 100%. Especially the last, you can keep on eliminating risk and still there will be some little bit of risk remaining at the very last end. You have to spend a lot of money to do that. Sometimes your business can get wiped out and you might get into loss-making situation while trying to manage the risk. In that kind of situations, it is better to stop the business rather than doing the business. Then you have to go back to your strategic planning and the objectives and start thinking, what kind of a business am I running? Okay, right. Now I'm going to show you some ILO requirements. ILO stand for International Labour Organization. I told you, when the people who supposed to make the decisions, who supposed to take the risk management and the mitigation measures, not doing their business, the legal framework comes into play. So ILO is one such thing. According to ILO statistics, 2.3 million people die every year due to accidents and diseases. Remember, accidents and diseases, occupational safety and health. Safety related incidents are happening right now and you can see the injury. Occupational health is you do something now, you get exposed to maybe toxic gases, sound, noises, awkward posture, heat. You are going to suffer not now, in another 5 to 6 years to come. The danger or the difference between the occupational safety, the incidents are happening now, it is visible, you can control it. When it comes to occupational health, you can't see the dust particles. You can't see what kind of toxic fumes you are inhaling. So it is difficult to manage. So that's why you can see here, when it comes to occupational safety and health statistics, 2.3 million people every year die due to accidents or diseases. Diseases are related to occupational health environment. Then each year approximately 5,000 people die, sorry, each day 5,000 people die out of work-related incidents, and 6,000 deaths of OSH incidents. Now remember, as I told you earlier, 5,000 dying due to safety-related incidents. The next 1,000 are due to health-related. So when you put 5,000 and that 1,000 together, it makes 6,000 dying every day. 340 million occupational accidents and over 160 million victims work-related illnesses every year. Remember, this is not a small figure, right? 160 million victims of work-related illnesses, 340 million occupational accidents. When you put these two things together, it's nearly 500 million. It's a massive number of accidents and incidents. So this is why it is important to manage occupational safety and health. 4% of world GDP is lost due to incidents and illnesses related issues. So 4% of GDP of the entire world is not a small thing. Why? The loss of GDP resulting from the cost of death and illnesses of the workforces and the manufacturing facilities is well over 20 times of official development assistance provided to developing countries. So remember, if you take care of occupational safety and health, money that is been lost directly and indirectly can be utilized to develop the other countries and other societies. Right. Now remember, this is something very, very important. I have highlighted these some of these words and sentences in bolds. Please remember, definitely this is going to be a question in your final paper. Definition of health and safety as per by WHO. Dealing with all aspects of health and safety in the workplace with a strong focus on primary prevention of hazards. Remember, safety is being managed by prevention of the hazard, not by wearing helmets. Now maybe you all have seen when you go into a construction site or construction facility, every time they say wear the helmet, wear the helmet, wear the helmet. According to Shell standard, if someone says wear the helmet every time, they get disqualified. They fail the HSC audit. It is not a good safety practice. Why do you wear the helmet? You are wearing the helmet because there is a possibility for something to fall. Why something is falling? The objects on top is or are not being controlled. It's a hazard. Falling object is a hazard. If the hazard is not being controlled, definitely they are going to fall. So what we are going to do? We are just wearing the helmet and letting things to fall. So the proper management of safety is not wearing the helmet. You are removing the things that can fall from above. So even the WHO has gone to that direction now. It says primarily prevention of hazards. You eliminate the hazard. Once you eliminate the hazard, the risk is been zeroed. If there's nothing to fall from the sky, will you ever wear helmets in work sites? No, it's not required, right? So remember, the wearing of a helmet in a work site is not a good sign. It shows very poorly managed health and safety culture. Health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not just absence of disease or incidents. So remember, this component is very important to Sri Lanka, because here we can see some of our people in the working community, they don't have a social life. They don't have a thing called mental well-being. They always say, I am under stress, I am under pressure, and they get high blood pressure, then sometimes heart attacks. This is not good. When you are doing your work, when you are performing any of the works, remember there's a thing called work-life balance. You do your work and balance your social life also. It is very key, and this is one of the WHO, World Health Organization requirements. Then also remember, occupational health is concerned with enabling an individual to perform in a way that cause least harm to their health. Least harm, not zero harm. As I told you earlier, nothing can be eliminated 100%. Still there will be some risk. You do all kind of things. When you try to remove one risk, another risk will pop up. So you have to strike the balance. When it says least, remember ALAP, as low as reasonably practicable, right? So this is a justifiable thing. You should know how to do it through proper calculations. Then comes health and safety management is the promotion of health and safety at work. So which means you are not enforcing it. You are educating your workers and enlightening them so they will voluntarily wear their helmets, they will voluntarily behave safely. Why? Every employee has the right to go home safely. Right? So what you have to promote is, even without a supervision, worker will not do anything wrong because it's going to hurt him and his other colleagues. So remember, preventing harm from incidental hazards arising in the workplace. So preventing harm from any incidental hazards. We are always going to hazards. You identify the hazard, automatically the harm will be prevented. So this is the culture we have to keep in our mind in the future. So when we are having why we should have HSE in our system, there are three key reasons: legal reasons, moral and social reasons, and financial reasons. When you get to run a business, as I told you, you will have a strategic objective, what you are going to achieve, how you are going to achieve it. Then you will have a plan and a policy. Policy is how you are going to achieve your objectives. Now within this policy, when you are framing the policy, you should always know how to manage these things: legal, moral, and or social and financial requirements. Let's look at them one by one. First, moral. We have a moral duty to look after fellow human beings and prevent pain and suffering. If you see someone hurt even while traveling in the road, won't you stop and help the person? Most of the time you will, although there's no any legal requirement to do that. That because we are human beings. That is our moral responsibility, right? Then there's a legal responsibility also. ILO regulations and the Health Organization regulations, they have specified certain things as minimum requirements when the moral responsibility component of the employers the supervisors are being diluted or looked away by them, then the legal framework comes into play. Then comes financial requirements. You are running a business to make money. If there's any incidents, accidents, there will be a lot of losses for you, which means you are going to make let the business collapse, which is not right. That is not the whole idea of running a business, right? Let's look at them one by one. Now here on top of the topic, you can see I have made a pie chart with MFL. M stands for moral, F stands for financial reasons, and L stands for legal requirements. So first we'll start with the legal here, because that is one of the things which sets the background of health and safety management in this world. Factory Act from 1802. This is the very first factory or the workers related regulations in the world. This is very important. 1802. We are in year 2020 now. So you can remember, you can just guess how far back these people, British people, has started thinking of the workers' well-being and how to manage the workers. So they had their first Factories Act in the world in 1802. Then Occupational Safety and Health Act of USA started in 1970. Of course, there were certain other regulations earlier, OSH requirements, but the proper act what is enforced today came in 1970. Then comes Health and Safety Act of UK in 1974. Up to 1974, their law was based on the Factories Act of 1802, but in 1974 they reviewed it totally. Even up to date, it is the 1974 Health and Safety Act of UK is been amended so many times, but in practice even up to date. Then comes ILO requirements. ILO is International Labour Organization. ILO recommendation. Remember, International Labour Organization every time doesn't put their things as a law. No, it's a recommendation. The countries has a legal obligation. Again, I am telling you, it's not enforcement, it's an obligation to follow these things, because if the country is good towards their citizens there and looking after their own people, definitely they will take these recommendations and embed them into the law. So first one is in 1981, Occupational Safety and Health Recommendations of International Labour Organization, Recommendation 164. This was agreed as a Convention 155 on the same day, sorry, not the same day, the same week. After submitting the recommendation, so many countries agreed to this convention and said, right, okay, we will follow this. Out of nearly 210 countries in the world, around 140 has signed for this one and ratified. Ratified is you are agreeing to implement them. Then comes European Agency for Safety and Health at Work. This came in 1996. Actually, this is one of the most stringent standards available up to date, because everyone knows the European Union is an organization which was created in the very recent past. It is just 25 years of age like. So therefore, they have a lot of new standards, new systems, and very updated policies, procedures, and systems in that community. Then comes Occupational Disease Control Act of People's Republic of China. China was very reluctant to go through this path because originally their system was the communism. They have a military and the communist party rules to govern their workers and everyone, the systems. But because they open up to the other world, they start exporting a lot of products. Other countries, the countries that those who buy the Chinese products, insisted for China also to follow something similar to either Europe or USA. So that's why they came in this Reform Act in 2002. Then Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health in year 2006. Again, the ILO countries got together and they decided not only having the recommendations on occupational safety and health, it is always better to have a promotional framework on occupational safety and health also, which means you are promoting the workers to do it, not enforcing. You are creating the background so the worker will automatically start following the system. So that was came as a convention in year 2006. Again, from nearly 210 countries, around 130 countries had ratified and agreed to implement this one. Then I must highlight this one also, our factory ordinance in Sri Lanka. This is one of the biggest problems what we have here. Our factory ordinance and the labor law here in Sri Lanka is still very, very old. Very little improvements has been done to these regulations, which were done in 1942. So it is very weak. Why I am saying very weak is some penalties, fines, unbelievably low. So that's why many of the employers, factory owners, they tend to let go. They are not going by the standard. They know incidents are happening. Some people are going to get hurt. Still, they are ready to go to courts and plead guilty and pay a very little amount of money. So until they get caught, they continue to do the bad practice and they continue to neglect the welfare and the safety of their workers. Okay, now I'm going to highlight about legal reasons and how they work. I have already discussed about this one, ILO recommendation 164, which came in 1981. It says what kind of safety management systems you should have in your system, how to manage your work safely. Anyway, we are going to discuss these things even further in our next oncoming modules. Then Convention 155. This is the place where they agreed to implement recommendation 164. Then Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health, which we discussed earlier. Then the Factory Ordinance of Sri Lanka, which became the labor law here. So these are the legal reasons for anyone who's running a business in Sri Lanka to go by. What will happen if you breach them? Remember, there's a thing called enforcement. What is enforcement? The preventive measures. Punitive. When I say punish you, that means the company owners, business leaders, they can get punished even through criminal sanctions. They can go to jail. In China and some other countries, very recently I saw that one, even in Korea, they shoot and kill people for violating the labor laws. I'll show you some examples also what will happen if they don't follow that. I don't know whether you're aware of this one. I'm showing you this for your awareness, right? I'm not supporting any product or I'm not letting any party down here anywhere, but I'm showing you the examples. Now remember here, just read through. Sealed Mycola pleads guilty. The Mycola Beverage Limited, which faces allegations of possessing expired ingredients at Kadavata factory, has pleaded guilty today, 20th March 2020. Not that far, right? So what did they do? Expired ingredients used to produce their drinks. and maybe you all have even consumed that one. The company has agreed in courts to destroy the stock of expired ingredients weighing 1000 kilograms in total, 1 ton of expired chemicals. What is the fine? They were also ordered to pay a fine of rupees 20,000. Lovely. So this is what I told you, our factory ordinance is very, very weak. This 20,000 is a tangible amount of money, good chunk of money, maybe 1947. In 1947, if you if you give a levy level a penalty of 20,000 rupees for a person, he's bankrupted. He will never run his business again. He can't. But that the same amount is still in existence. What is 20,000 today? Right? That's why I told you earlier, our law is very, very weak. Sorry, actually this incident happened not in March, this in February. Right? February 20th, they pleaded guilty. Okay? Right. Then remember there are laws in place that instill requirements and guidelines for organizations to follow. So these labor requirements and environmental related requirements are there as part of law for the companies to follow. Again, if they don't follow, what will happen? The problems again. Actually, you must understand one other thing also. Now, even the earlier example, I told you the penalty was 20,000. But imagine the damage to the reputation of the company. Will you ever drink my cola again or any of their products? I don't know about you. For me, definitely no. This is what they. This is only when they got caught. 1 ton of expired chemicals and ingredients used to produce soft drinks. For how long have they been doing? We don't know. What is the assurance to say that they will not do it again? So there is a huge damage to the business image. That matters more than the rupees 20,000. Okay. Now we are coming to the next example of how these things can happen. Failure to follow these rules and regulations will lead to fines, imprisonment, and loss of business image within the competitive markets. Now, earlier I talked about my cola. See what happened to the other cola. Coca-Cola apologized and pay compensation for contaminating drinking water. I don't know whether you are aware of this incident. This incident occurred in 2015 where one of their fuel storage tank pipes which was underground was leaking, which they didn't know. The water fell into Kalani River. And about 1 kilometer further downstream, there was a collection point of water which is being used to purify into the drinking water category. So the people downstream were complaining that the drinking water was smelling like kerosene, and they didn't realize that it was a pipeline that was leaking in the Tekavatta, actually the place called at Tekavatta at Kaduvela. The diesel pipeline which has got ruptured underground was leaking diesel into the stream. What happened? They apologized. But what is the decision given? The investigation has revealed that the diesel leakage originated from Coca-Cola factory was responsible. According to the Professor L.M. Dharmasri, chairman of Central Environment Authority Sri Lanka, Coca-Cola must publicly accept responsibility for the contamination of the Kalani River water. It must ensure such incidents do not happen in the future by upgrading the environmental safety measures. It must pay compensation for the damage it has caused. So remember, there is a legal framework what we have. Maybe it is not very strong as it's supposed to be, but still there is a law. Okay? Right. So these are the legal reasons. Now imagine my cola and Coca-Cola. Due to some reason, these were not published very well, right? In generally, I am not talking about any brand, any particular person by name until and unless there are clean evidence on that one. And also, I don't originate them. I get this information from the general public media and pass it to others. So I am not committing any crime, or I am not trying to tarnish the image of anybody. Another incident. Horana factory owner remanded. This is what I told you at the very early stages. Remember, now this is a private business. The business owner, he never knew what the latex rubber business is going to be like. So his unknown risk elements were much, much higher. He never knew that he will get into a situation like this, unfortunately. But what happened? Sarath Vijayaratne, the owner of the rubber factory at Bellapitiya or in Horana, where 5 persons were killed in the accident, has been remanded until 11th of May. So remember, this prison imprisonment is not only for low-level people, even very high people can end up in situations like this. Why? It is the owner, process owner, business owner who is responsible for paying the proper due attention. Can you remember the very first one? Leadership and commitment. If the leadership and the commitment is not in place, definitely the incidents can happen. If the leaders are going to look away, the legal framework is there to look at them. Okay? Right. Then comes moral reasons. We have talked about the moral reasons. Now we are talking about the reasons for having HSC management. What are the moral reasons? As we told earlier, discussed earlier, when people go to work, they do not expect to get hurt. They want to come back home. Every employee expects to work in a safe environment. This is the responsibility of the employer. Compensation cannot bring back lost arms, limbs, or lives. Now, in Sri Lanka, again, our labor law is very, very weak in this aspect. Very clearly written guidelines are there. If your hand is lost, 250,000, arm is lost, 250,000, both hands lost, 500,000, arm and leg lost, or limb lost, 500,000. Like that, we have set a financial limit. But is that the value of the hand? Now, if the compensation is going to give you 500,000, can you go anywhere and buy a hand? You can't do that. But unfortunately, our system is very limited to that. So remember, when you are running a business, you should not expect to impact IPs, interested parties, the people who get affected, who could get affected, who believes that they can get affected. Those are the IPs, and the environment while running a business, right? So remember, you can't forget this one. You are having a moral responsibility to safeguard the lives and the environment, or the IPs and the environment. Then there's a thing called duty of care. What is duty of care? Duty of care is obligation. The obligation to exercise a level of care towards an individual that is reasonable in all circumstances to uh, avoid injury to that individual or his property. We know that someone is going to hurt himself knowingly or unknowingly. We know that if we do something, you can stop it. Will you do it or not? Definitely you will do it. අපි පාරේ යනකොට වුණත් කෙනෙක් වලකට වැටෙන්න යනකොට සමහර වෙලාවට maybe during your colleagues they get hooked onto the mobile phone, sometimes walking while chatting, හැප්පෙන්න යනකොට කාර් එකකට වදින්න යනකොට කාණුවකට වැටෙන්න යනකොට අපි කෑ ගහලා කියනවා ඕ යන්න එපා වැටෙයි කියලා. That is our obligation. You have to have the same kind of things in your working environment also. That is what duty of care means. Sometimes we breach this. That's called negligent act. Now, I will just bring you back to the corona situation. The people who knew or suspected to get to get contaminated or to have contaminated, some people they behave in a very irresponsible manner. They knew they had sore throat, they knew they had high fever, but they didn't tell anyone. They just keep on roaming around and spreading the virus everywhere. That is a negligent act. You just wait and see. It has been discussed many a times. All these people will be punished under criminal law. It is attempted manslaughter. Why? You know coronavirus is bad. You know you have all the symptoms of coronavirus, but still you are not going to get any treatment. Not only not staying home, but you go roaming around and spreading the virus also. That is definitely a negligent act. Okay? The same thing can happen in factories, same thing can happen in offices. Sometimes when the two parties have a grudge upon each other, you just wait looking at the other person knowing that he's going to get it. Right, okay, gihilla වැටිච්චා මට කමක් නැහැ. That kind of situations we have seen. So remember, negligent act could be an unintentional but a careless act. The person who supposed to get infected with corona, maybe he was not 100% sure that he was infected with corona. But his The instructions was given for them to not to roam around. They still go wandering and spreading the virus. So actually it's a careless act. Then what happened? Negligent act will be regarded as having breached the duty of care. Now this duty of care is a psychological state. It's the uh, feeling in within human beings. Actually, I am lucky enough to work in so many other countries. Different color of people, white people, brown people, black people, yellow people. I have worked with all these people. But in all these environments, sometimes when I was while I was working on a pavement, I still can remember in Nigeria, I slipped my feet. I got myself tossed towards the roadside when other vehicles were coming. And the guy whom I had never seen in my life, he pulled my hand and he pulled me to safety. Why? That is duty of care. Okay? Right. Now, some other moral reasons. Now, we are in a developing world. You get developed world on the other side of the world. They want to know that we follow the duty of care, although we are not geared to do that. They want to ensure the products that they come to their countries are properly adhering to, produced while properly adhering to this duty of care requirements. So that's why they have developed these standards, worldwide responsible accredited production. What is it? WRAP, WRAP. Now here, then there's another standard called Global Food Safety Initiative. Now, Global Food Safety Initiative means when they are producing these food related products, they are not overpicking. They are not damaging the environment. Why? Food is running short everywhere. So just because you have money, you can't produce, say, 10,000 acres of banana and you used only 50 acres the production and destroy the rest. No, you can't do that. It is not allowed, right? So that is what this Global Food Safety Initiative means. This BRC is British Retail Consortium. So British Retail Consortium is the one which has initiated this Global Food Safety Initiative. It doesn't allow manufacturers or marketing and the sales people to waste food. From the time it is been harvested from the field until it is been packed and distributed to the client and then sold or consumed, there cannot be waste. Have taken all the measures to minimize the amount of waste coming out of the food industry. Then customs trade partnership against terrorism. Now the terrorism also playing a very big role in safety. Sometimes the terrorist groups, terrorist organizations willfully uh, introduce harmful chemicals, harmful microorganisms, and the damaging products to hurt another party in the world. So therefore, the counter-terrorism measures also been taken as a very key important requirements. This is CTPAT. CTPAT is on that one. CTPAT, you can see here, Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. Why? They don't want to use this supply chain to hurt another party. This is the CTPAT certification. Then comes HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. This is not only into the food industry, this can go into any process in the world. What they are doing is hazard analysis. They identify the hazards and introduce critical control points to ensure productivity. This is one of the areas where I was excelling while I was in Shell. So hazard analysis, if there is a hazard, you introduce a control point. By doing that, you can safeguard your product and you can safeguard the environment and you can safeguard your people around. This is the HACCP accreditation. Then comes Business Social Compliance Initiative, SA 8000. Now what is Social Compliance Initiative? When you are running a business, how much you are caring about your IPs, interested parties. It is not inside the factory or your premises, this is outside. How much your social compliance, how much your company is accepted in the society, how much of people outside of the business likes you. That is social compliance. If your company is doing well, everyone will be loving you. They say, right, okay, you are working for this company. They will love it. And in the same manner, if your company is a very bad company producing all every time bad products and lot of controversies and issues, they will say, oh my God, you are working for that company. So that means it's not a socially accepted business. Okay, right. Then comes a little bit of an introduction. I'm not going to go through on these ones, but this information is available in your slide pack. This is for your general knowledge. Please take some time and go through that. What is FRAP for? Please read through. Then what is GFSI for? What they are doing? Please check on that one. This is again for your general knowledge. I am not going to ask this information in detail, but rough idea definitely should have. Then about CTPAT, please read through, get a rough idea, because if someone asks from a different batch or one of your friends or your parents or a friend, you should be able to explain this. Then HACCP, again the requirements I have mentioned. Please take your time and go through that, right? Then BSCI, Business Social Compliance Initiative, why it is there and what are the expectations, please read through. Now we are coming to the financial reasons. We were talking about 3 reasons for health and safety management. We talk about moral reasons, we talk about legal reasons, now we are talking about financial reasons. You are running a business to make money. Of course, when it comes to a business, you will have insurance. Sometimes people say, ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ මගේ වාහනේ ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ බය වෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. But does it mean හැප්පෙන හැම වෙලේම 100% කිසිම loss එකක් නැතුව තමන්ගේ වාහනේ හදාගන්න පුළුවන්ද? වාහනේ damage එක හරියනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්, but definitely you are not going to get the payment for the time that you wasted, the agony, difficulties, your missed appointments, opportunities. Nobody can compensate for that one. So remember, even when you are having an insurance, your every cost is not being recovered. So even when it is a business, there are 2 kinds of cost: direct cost, indirect cost. Direct cost you can insure. You can insure and get the money. Indirect costs are not insured and you're not going to get any payment back for that. Right? What are the direct costs? Hospitals, treatments, management of permanent disability issues, then the sick pay, legal cost, insurance claims, and the damage to buildings, vehicles, machinery and everything, then the product and the material lost and the other damages, and the overtime working. These things you can claim. But what are the things that you cannot claim? Uninsured. Investigation cost. Something is happening, you have to do an investigation. So who's doing the investigation? It is some of the officials who have been doing some other job is been asked to come and do the investigation. Those people have to work extra hours. They have to neglect what they are doing as of now. Then you have to pay fines. You have to pay penalties. You have to hire train people to do the job, because the most experienced person maybe they got hurt, injured. Then they might leave the company after an incident. Then you have to get some people in to work. Then loss of image and goodwill. Now I showed you displayed you 2 slides, My Cola and Coca-Cola. Their image was damaged. How much of money have they spent to recover that damage? My Cola, I don't know whether they will be able to restart the business, because the reputation is being damaged to that length. Then business interruption. Now even in the Coca-Cola incident, when this diesel leakage took place, the environmental authority came and stopped the operations of the factory. It's a massive interruption because it happened in December. So you have to be ready of that kind of situations also. But unfortunately, those losses are not being paid. Then product liability. What is product liability? Some of the manufacturers, they have binding agreements with the clients. You're supposed to supply 10,000 crates of your product every month. Whether your factory went under fire or under floods or it's been stopped, the customer doesn't care for that. He needs his products, right? If you don't give the products, definitely what will happen? You have to pay compensation for that one. That is called product liability. It is not insured. Then comes production delays. Now, the factory of inspectors and the legal officers comes and seal off the factory. Definitely there will be a production delay. Again, the product liability issues will start popping up. Then increased premiums. Some incident happened, then after that your insurance party will ask you to pay even more as your premium. This is happening even with the motor vehicle insurances. එකපාරක් accident වුණොත් 10% කපනවා, දෙපාරක් accident වුණොත් 30% කපනවා, and also on top of that there will be an increased amount of premium also that you're supposed to pay. So these are okay. Now let's see how the moral, financial and legal reasons can come into effect. The first instance, Horana gas leak. This is a safety incident. Safety incident occurred because they were not following the legal guidelines given. What happened? There was a gas leak. Actually, it's an ammonia leak, and 5 workers died. Then the second instance, Dip Products Limited Ratupaswala. This is environment related issue. Again, the legal systems were there, but they didn't follow properly, or they were believed to not to have followed the legal requirements at that time, and finally it became a huge issue. So many villages, about 3 or 4 villages, their waterbed was contaminated and there's no drinking water in their wells, and they got gathered into playgrounds, and then they from the playground they came into the main road. From the main road they start sitting in the and blocking the main road at Valley area, and finally the army and the police came in and it ended up killing 3 or 4 people, and up to now that problem is being discussed in the courts. Now when we'll get this opportunity to discuss about the IPs also, interested parties. Remember in the first instance where the ammonia gas leak took place at Horana, the people got affected directly. That is the first kind of IPs, the people who will get affected due to the process. Now here is the second party. They are not within the premises, but they may get affected. This is the second party, right? Then we are coming to the third one, Sampur power station. This power station apparently it's a coal power station which is said to be destroying the environment and a lot of damages to the livelihood and the lives of the general community in that area. So what happened? Even before the power station started, people started to protest. Now this is the third category of IPs. The first party at Horana, they got affected. Second party, they are not within the factory but outside, they believe to get affected. Now this is the third party. Nothing has happened so far, but with the previous experience and rumors says if this is being done, they are going to get affected. Therefore they are protesting. So this is the third category. They are fighting for the future, not now. Now Ratupaswala, they are fighting for a reason now. So remember, when you are looking into the business activities, you have to look into all these 3 IPs, interested parties, who are getting affected, who may get affected, who believe to get affected in the future. Then comes Makumura Manchi LPG leak. This is a very less spoken, least publicized issues which happened, I think it's around 2006 if I am not mistaken. Massive LPG leak, and 2 villages were evacuated totally. 2 kilometers radius from the Manchi factory was contaminated. This is because they didn't follow, actually it's not the Manchi, the party who brought LPG into the Manchi facility was not following legal requirements. Then Apitech water tank factory, again not following legal requirements. There was a very small violation, but they were dealing with the very hazardous substances. The entire factory got gutted down. Now actually when we are looking at the cost factor, the financial side of this one, what are the implications? Horana factory was closed down for nearly about 1.5 years. Dip Products Limited, they were forced to remove the facility from Valley area and they relocated in Biagama. Imagine the cost involved in that one. Then Sampur power station, so much of money was spent, nothing was started. There's a little bit of concrete here and there, and that's all. Then in Manchi, the name of the Manchi and the name of the gas supply was destroyed. Now in Apishal factory, this was the largest water tank manufacturing, plastic water tank manufacturing facility. They couldn't restart the business for nearly 1.5 years. Within that time, the competitors recaptured the market. Earlier, they were responsible for 70% of the market, but after this incident, even up to date, they are not even 60%. So this is what happened when you don't follow these rules, regulations and other things. Right. Now we are coming to the latter part or the end, nearly the end of the first segment. Effective HSC management. Why is it? The HSC management systems helps to ensure business conducted in safe, healthy and environmentally responsible manner so that it prevents incidents, injuries, illnesses and environmental and asset damages and the reputational losses. That's why we have been discussing all this time, right? It enables people to and the communities to be safe and thrive, which helps keep the business healthier. This is the whole idea. So believing that all incidents are preventable and the HSC considerations must be embedded into each and every business decision. As I told you earlier, the health, safety and environmental management is starting from the policy and the strategic objective. From that time onwards, right down to the grassroots level of safe system of work, health and safety and the environmental practices should be considered. So this is the end of segment 1. What you are going to do now is, it is your opportunity for you to jot down the questions what you have. If you need any clarification on any area, if I have to repeat any of these things what we have discussed to elaborate more, even explain in Sinhala language, there's no problem. And also remember, I forgot to mention about this to you in the early stages. Knowing English is good, but knowing English well is not a crime. We are not born English speaking nation. We are Sinhala people. We speak Sinhalese language, right? If you don't know how to speak in our own language, that then you have to be ashamed about, not about English. So during this program, if you have any issues of understanding properly what I have discussed in English, please do ask. Even on personal basis, I can explain those things in Sinhala. My idea is not to complete the number of hours, but for you to give the knowledge and the competency. That is my idea. Not to finish the number of sessions, right? I want all of you all to pass the test, pass the exam. That is the whole idea, the whole requirement, right? Passing the exam itself is not good enough unless you can put those things into practice. You can put things into practice only if you understand well. So don't worry about the language. If you don't understand, please do call me. I will pass down my contact number. You can call me and you can talk to me anytime. But of course, I am a busy person, but I will tell you when and how to contact me. Okay? But that is from your side. I have some questions. The questions what you all are noting down now will be discussed after the break. But for now, which you're supposed to discuss, this is activity which you're supposed to do, perform during the break. Question 1. What is the key difference between supply chain and an ethical supply chain? You can even call one of your friends. Sirasa Lakshapati එකේ වගේ helpline එකට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. You can have a discussion and find the answer. Okay? Question 2 is, what are the 3 main reasons of having HSC management system? Why should we have the HSC management system? Question 3. Give one example for each from above. කාරණා තුනක් අපි කියලා කතා කරා. Moral reasons, legal reasons, financial reasons. සමහර වෙලාවට මම කතා කරපු examples වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. තමුන් පුද්ගලිකව දන්න දේවල්. Moral reasons අපි මනුස්සකම සලකන්නේ නැතුව ඉඳලා මනුස්සකමට තිබිය යුතු ගෞරවය දෙන්නේ නැතුව ඉඳලා වෙච්ච incidents ඇති අපි දන්න. Financial reasons නිසා මූල්‍යමය හේතු නිසා වෙච්ච incidents ඇති. නීතිය පිළිපදින්න නැති නිසා වෙච්ච incidents ඇති, right? Now I gave you some examples. Try to superimpose those things into your environment. Remember, I told you my idea is not to make you poteguras. You should be able to know how to implement these things in the ground. That's why I'm asking you all to take these things. Okay? Please make a note of this one and be ready to discuss on that one. I will tell you how to complete the discussion on that one afterwards. Okay? Send your answers to, sorry, I'm having a small typing error here, right? Send your answers to me during the break. Right. Now that is the end of the module, the segment 1 of this module, and we are going to be available back again in 30 minutes. So you have 30 minutes from now. Please discuss these questions. Please discuss your own questions and send them to me we will discuss it from that within the day. Okay, right. Get a break, 30 minutes, spot on 30 minutes. I'll be back.